Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Personal Development Hacks. If you're stuck in life and not achieving exactly everything that you want to, and want to get out of living the kind of just status quo and doing the same thing over and over again, certainly we are able to help. So, uh, my name's Todd. Welcome to this episode of our show. Um, this week we're going to cover the what's next. So we've already covered what, which is the goal, which is, where your biggest focus there is to really dig in and think about what's important to you and what is going to impact your lifetime, not just the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever, but something that you can do that is really for the long term. Um, We've also covered the why. The why is a big one, obviously, because the why is your inspiration, not your motivation. It's going to take a little bit longer to kind of go through this just because you need to start asking yourself why these things are important to you, what that looks like in terms of, what success looks like and who's involved and why it's important to them, and start asking those questions to really figure out um, why this goal kind of bubbled to the top as being the most important to you. Um, we've also covered why not, which is thinking a lot about those items that are potential roadblocks or detours that you're going to take, as well as also thinking about what's prevented you from doing anything in the past. What prevented you from getting started in the past, and why is now different than the times prior? And what are you going to do differently? How are you going to approach it differently? How are you going to think differently to make sure that this time is going to be sustainable and habit creating, so that you don't have that kind of, you know, snowy day and all of a sudden you're like, ah, forget it. And then you end up writing the same resolution the following year. So, uh, with what's next, what you guys are going to find, this is kind of the fun part. Your first goal, you may have been a little bit more conservative. Um, you may have done, you may have kind of set out to do something that you made sure that, okay, I can achieve this. I know I can do this. It is going to have a positive impact, but maybe it's not that real big goal. Maybe it was, a step along that path, which is great. As long as you're making progress, as long as you're moving forward, then it's fine. It's great. I mean, that's progress. That's exactly what it is. You're aiming at something that's out there, and you put a plan together, and you know why you're doing it, and you're just doing your thing and making progress each and every day towards that. But with the what's next, what you'll find is once you actually get through the planning stage of your your first goal or your first target or whatever you want to call it, once you get through that and you actually start putting that plan into place and you start taking action on it, as with most things, it might be tough at first. It'll be uncomfortable. It's not a habit yet. um, and like we talked about, this is where you're gonna get a lot of people that are gonna ask the question like, well, what are you doing and why are you doing this and stuff like that. And you'll know it's why, and maybe they don't. Um, but it hasn't become a habit for you, and it's not normal for you. Let's just say that this is where you've been with your normal, and you're wanting to get to here. Well, as you kind of go down that road and make progress towards that new level, you're going to have people asking, questioning, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's going on? Something changed, stuff like that. Um, but the longer you do it, and that new normal starts to become more and more part of you, that's the fun part, because that's when it goes from not what you're doing, but you'll feel it, and it becomes the new, like, no, this is who I am anymore. Now you might not be a finished product, um, right at that stage, but you're going to be making those strides, and you just know people are going to stop asking you. It's just going to be kind of, no, it's that's he's getting out and walking every day, and that's just what he does. Or yeah, he's putting in the extra hours to you know get ahead. Or him and his significant other, they're doing all these things together because that's just what they do. They go out all the time, and they seem to be enjoying themselves. When you're starting to get to that stage, um, you'll feel yourself kind of, it becomes almost addicting, because you're going to see the progress, you're going to feel it, and you're going to start to want more. And that's when you needing to start thinking about, well, what's next? What's the next goal? What's beyond the next hill? What's over the edge of the horizon? Um, I think it was Ryan Blair said it. The further you go, or the higher you go, the more you see. And that's exactly it. It's like it becomes you. From you, it's standing at the bottom where it's your starting point, and everything is uphill from you, and you can only see the path that's right in front of you. Once you start achieving and making that progress, and you kind of go up, 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 you get to the top, and all of a sudden, all sorts of things just lay themselves out in front of you in terms of just opportunities that are there. So the important thing with the what's next is, it could be a continuation of what you're currently doing. Your first goal is, um, if it's fitness, it might be like, um, you just wanted to get fit, and now it's like you want to see if you can go the next step and run a 10K, or compete in a obstacle course race or something like that. As long as that next step is like a bigger step, and it really starts to push you, um, that's the important thing. If it's wealth, it's same kind of thing. It's what's next is, once you start achieving, and you've already figured out like what you're going to do with the money, that you're now making versus what you did make. Maybe your next goal is something along those lines, and you turn that into, what, I made an extra 25% this year, because I really pushed and expanded my horizons, and talked to more people and did a lot more things, converted at a higher percentage, and I got 25% or 25 grand or whatever it is. And that was, now I took my family on a vacation, and we went to Costa Rica for a week, and it was fantastic. Well, maybe the next year, it's as you start to grow that, keep in mind 25%, if that's your plan. um, 25% of 125 is a bigger number than 100, right? So now you're gonna have even more money, and you need to start planning for that. Or if it's like you made 25% more, that's great. But like, maybe your goal becomes, you want to expand the number of sources of income, and you want it to have, get into other income streams. Do you want to get into affiliate marketing or start an online business or, take some money and invest in like real estate or apartment buildings or stuff like that, something that's going to create cash flow, which, let's face it, especially with real estate, you're always going to have that asset there. Um, there's plenty of outfits and plenty of different things out there that you can do, that they'll take a little bit of time to set up. They'll take a little bit of effort to set up. They're going to take your time and attention for a good amount of time. But once you get them established and starting to generate, an additional source of income, they can just last. They just go, because you've made the investment, you put the systems in place, and it just creates a cash flow event for you. If it's relationships, your what's next might be, if it was you and your significant other wanted to do dinner twice a month, and have, one of those would be a childless night or whatever it is. Maybe you turn that into, the next year. It's like, I want to expand that relationship even more. And, now let's go and do something 3 nights a week. And it doesn't all have to be out, but you start making more and more plans, because not because it's like you feel you have to, but because you're enjoying that relationship even more, that you want to spend even more time, invested in it, and really just with that individual that you've chosen to spend your time with. Now, when you get to this, when you start thinking about the what's next stage, keep in mind it does not have to be, within the same kind of thing that you've been doing the first time. There's no rules with this, which is the awesome part about it. Is it's your life, and really the theme is what you can create out of it, not what's created for you. So if if you get to that stage and it's like your initial goal was you wanted to get fit, and you've established a habit, and you're walking 5 days a week, and your diet is on point, and you're feeling good, you feel a lot better, you're healthier, but that's kind of what you wanted. Like, that's success for you, is I want to just feel better and feel fit and be able to participate in things that my kids or friends or whatever are doing. Okay, that's great. But once you do that, if that's as far as you wanted to take like your fitness, then be on the lookout for other opportunities. You could go from fitness to wealth or whatever ultimately it is. So you don't have to stay on the same theme in terms of fitness all the way through. But it's important is, especially as you go through this, is to not rely on what you did the first time through. Like, take the time to go through and really think about what is the new goal, and who's it going to impact, and why is it, and then go through your whys, because you'll find over time your why might ultimately be a little bit different. I'm a perfect example of it. So, like, when I kind of started on my path, and kind of what I created, my biggest thing was I wanted to get fit for my kids so that I could participate and not be on the sidelines for their events. I wanted to be able to take them and see things and go do things, and not just be like, yeah, I'll pay for you to go or something like that. Like, I wanted to participate so I could spend the time with them and really develop my relationship with them. So ultimately, my kids were my why. And I told them, and there's no way I was going to let them down. Now, as I've gotten fit, my inspiration has changed a little bit. Not the core reason. It's still my kids, but it's gone from being able to participate and be with them to more of like what I'm talking about and showing them that you don't have to have a 9 to 5 job. If you do, that's great, but you don't have to. And if you find something that you love, that you're passionate about, that you feel that is a need and it can serve people, there's other ways to do it. And it's really more about like giving them freedom of choice than anything else. I just want them to be able to go through, and when that, as they go through college, get out of college, everything like that, is is to have freedom of choice and not feel like they get out of school and immediately they're kind of cornered into, well, I went to school for this and I'm going to do this. And if they end up doing exactly that and they get out of school and they get their degree or whatever, and they take a 9 to 5 job and they're happy and they're fulfilled and everything like that, then great. But my inspiration there is to show them and be there for them, to show them that there's choice, there's other ways of doing it. As we've seen it through, especially in the last 5 6 years, has been a shift from office buildings and people going to work all the time and working for other companies to really kind of exploring different ways of not just making a living, but excelling. And it's just about providing what people are in need of, what they truly need help with. It's a lot of times it's like you'll find the most successful people in the world. They typically pay for like one thing, and it's speed. If someone else out there it has the knowledge that they lack, instead of them taking the time to go through and really learn it and become an expert at it and then be able to implement it, if someone's already at that stage, they'll just pay them to do it. It doesn't matter if it's like a internet or social media system or something like that. They'll seek out and find the experts and the highest performers at it and let them showcase their talent to help to help that individual and their business kind of grow and grow and grow because they're paying the expert in that field. So the same thing here is if I can help you guys with your goals and everything like that, instead of taking this long path of trial and error and setting a resolution, writing it down, and then 3 months later you're not doing it anymore, and then the next year you write something down or you put it on a bucket list. You're like, okay, I'm going to do a bucket list this year, and not have the plan really and not know how to kind of navigate through that. And 3 months through, you're like, okay, the next year. And the only thing that's changing on your resolutions or your bucket lists ultimately is the year on top and whatever year it actually is. So, but when you start getting to the what's next, like I said, it's the fun part because you've already started to experience, if not really experienced, like success and progress and proving to not just yourself, but to the other people that you've involved in this, family, friends, coworkers, whatever. They've started to see those changes and you've got that experience, and people will start they'll notice the difference and they'll start making comments about it. And I mean, let's face it, we're human, and we take compliments, and a lot of times it kind of makes you feel good as long as they're real compliments. And it starts to make you feel a little bit better, like, okay, I actually am doing this. And the more that happens, the more addictive it becomes. And now the more that you're going to want. Um, the beauty of this is just the doesn't matter what your goal is or how many times you've gone through it, the setup is the same. It's find your what and what's important, and make sure that it's a positive impact for your lifetime, not the short time, and who is involved in all of that. Find your why and discover like why it's important to you, um, who else it's important to, and really dig in and spend that time. And then obviously identify your roadblocks and kind of what's out in front of you there that could potentially derail you, and then ultimately get to your what's next and figure out like, okay, well, what now? Like, there's more to this than just where I'm currently at, and what is next, and what is that next step in the line and the next goal that I'm going to hit. Um, so a lot of times, guys, there's two kind of main motivating factors that will spark people to action, into wanting something different, doing something different, um, making adjustments and stuff like that. The first is pleasure, and with that, it's like you've got this like vision of what could be, and your desire for that becomes so strong that it makes you make a decision to strive for something more and to go and get that. Um, Now, as good as that sounds, and wanting more and everything like that, I mean, let's face it, it's everyone wants to, live in a good house and have a pool or be on the beach or travel extensively and, have whatever nice car or stuff like that. Like, people always have these thoughts. And so that's while it's a motivating factor, it's not the strongest of the two, because the other one is pain. Um, and that is where um, whatever you're going through, it could be one day you just wake up and you've been feeling down at work because you feel like it's Groundhog Day. You do the same thing over and over. Or it's a superior, a boss that is just, on you, on you, on you, and it doesn't make sense to you because, you're sitting there thinking, well, you don't know how it works in real life, and you don't know how all this stuff fits together, but they're pushing, pushing, pushing to do something like that. So one day you'll wake up and that pain, that 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 just feeling of, God, this has got to be different. This has got to change. That pain will get to a point that will ultimately spark your decision to seek out and to go and look for something different to do. It's just some other avenue. Um, you'll look for other, not just jobs, but other opportunities. You'll look for just different ways to make your income, because I mean, you've woke up and it's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I feel like every day is the same day. Um, and typically the first sign of that you'll find is is when you get to like Tuesday, and you start thinking, God, I can't wait for Friday. And it's because now you've got those couple days off that is out of the situation that's causing the pain, but it's going to be there when you get back on Monday. So that's typically in terms of like, you know, your employment or wealth or whatever. That's typically one of the first signs is like when you start just aiming towards Friday, like everything is all about, I, I just need to get to Friday. As soon as you start saying that, it's probably time to start looking for a different thing. Okay. Um, and then make sure when you do take the time on the weekends, instead of, just doing what you normally do, yard work, housework, or whatever. I mean, we all have those days where that stuff just has to be done, but it's not every day. So, with regards to just betterment of life, take time on weekends and just time for yourself, time for your family, time where you're not running around to a multitude of sporting events and you got to go see one kid over here and somehow someone else has to be over here to watch the other kid play, and then we got to get them both together and go to a party. Yeah, you're still going to have days like that, but when you don't, um, it's a great opportunity to talk to your kids and depending obviously on their ages and figure out like what do they want to do, like what's something that they think would be fun on a weekend. And mine are 17 and 15, and so it's like what's fun for them on weekends is doing things with their own friends in their own way and stuff like that. And that's fine. I mean, we still take time for ourselves to them and I to do things and to spend time and to um, you know plan adventures and go to the lake and go to the mountains and stuff like that. um, but as they get older, they start to grow and they have their own friends and they do their own thing. So take advantage while you can, and that falls right into what your goals would be. Remember, there's three main categories that majority of people are going to put down in terms of where they're, what they're aimed at, and it's health, wealth, and relationships. Um, doesn't matter what their goal is, how it's worded, um, you know, what level that goal is at. Um, it's going to typically fall into one of those three categories. And there's nothing to say that you can't work on more than one thing at a time, um, to be able to ultimately get to where you want to go. I'll say this: make sure that the whatever your goal is and whatever your steps are, make sure that it does challenge you. Um, it can't be something to where your goal can't be, I need to wake up 15 minutes earlier every day. And the why is that because you need coffee before you need to go to work. That's not going to impact the remainder of your life in a positive way. So make sure that it's something that is going to take effort and it's going to take a change, or a improvement on, if you're already kind of like on the path of, say, career ascension, and but that's still like your biggest number one, like I want to get to X, is really sitting back and saying, okay, at the path that I'm on, where does it top off at? Is that good with me? Or do I need to find something else to get even higher if that's ultimately your goal? Um, and then what's it going to take for me to get from where I'm currently at to the level that I want to do? And then okay, as I make this path, is then what am I doing with this extra money? Um, I think that's the biggest thing is people humans were conditioned to, you know, want more, I want more, I want more. Um, but really, are we conditioned to figure out, okay, well, now you got more. What are you going to do with it? Like your life in general has stayed the same. Now, if you're a growing family, that additional money might be to, well, I've got another mouth to feed in the house, and that's great. That's awesome. Congratulations. But if you're not in that situation and your family dynamic stays the same, um, then it's like, okay, what do I need to do with this? Because you've been living at the level that you've been living at, making what you've been making. So as you make more, in the begin, it might be like, look, I got a big, I'm starting to make some progress here, making a little bit more, but I really need to pay off some credit cards, or I need to get rid of a student loan, or pay off a car, or fix the furnace or something. That might be your most pressing need initially for that money, and rightfully so. Is put yourself in a position financially to be able to, you know, have safety and not be under a pile of debt. But then secondarily is like once you kind of get in that stage of I really don't, have a lot of bills besides maybe I own my house, or I've got a year left on a car payment or something like that. As you start making that more and more, then it's like, okay, well, what are my plans for that? And that's where it's really going to take some time and effort and talking to some experts. And as we go through and in future episodes, I'll certainly have some people on that can talk about the wealth side of it. Just like ideas and thoughts and how to create opportunities that you might not have thought of. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. It doesn't have to be just, I'm going to put it into a savings account, or, I got a stock account that, I don't have the time and effort. And so I just kind of put it in there into an index fund or something like that. There's other ways that if you're going to spend a dollar or invest a dollar, you should expect at some point to get $10 back. It's that rule of like it's time use of money, right? Like if someone's going to basically borrow that dollar from you um, to invest in whatever, or to put into effect in their company, or their investment or their real estate or whatever, you deserve to get paid at a bigger multiple when as you go through that process. So that's just one small part of it. But guys, as always, we do offer a program that if you want more details, if you want more personalized help, if you want the support of a group, if you want to hear a lot of different ideas, and have just have a collective of people that are going through the same types of things, goals different, results different, their whys are different and everything, but they're going to encounter a lot of the same stuff along the way. That's where I say just go to the website below, go.project9life.com, and you get more information there. And hopefully we can schedule a call from there and get you involved, and make sure that we're fit for each other, and we can help. I can help you guys out with getting ultimately kind of where you want to go. Um, you know, just because I've done this, got it hundreds of times, and there's a lot of everyone. Everyone thinks their thing is unique, and they are. And that's the beauty of it, is that what's important to you, um, and your why and your main kind of idea behind it, um, you might have the same goal as someone right next to you, right? Like ultimately, you both kind of come to the conclusion that I just want to get fit. And what you're going to find is your inspiration is completely different than their inspiration. Um, yours might be like mine was, which was, you know, want to be able to be involved with my kids and not sit on the sidelines and show them a lot of this, what Colorado and, the mountains and everything has to offer. Well, that was mine. But someone else, they might look at it and say, I want to get fit because my parents and their parents were not fit. They went the other way. They were, for lack of a better term, they were bigger people, didn't eat right, didn't exercise, and I don't want to be that. So just as powerful of a inspiration point, for them, but completely different than yours, even though your goal is still the same. So as you go through, make sure you're asking the questions. The first part, going through and just figuring out your what, why, your why not, and then at some point along, you're going to figure out your what's next. You could go in and say, I'm going to do this, and then I already got my what's next before you even start. That's great. But it's like the flight again, just be able to make the course adjustment and course correction, because where you start out and then once you get into it, that what's next or your next goal might be completely different than when you started out. Okay. Also keep in mind that, especially as you go through your whys and why it's important, what you end up with is that your goal you're still striving for, but your why might not have really anything to do with it. I was working with a guy, talking to him about, he figured out that his, after kind of going back and forth a few times, is like his goal was he wanted to shoot back in the 70s, because in high school and college he was typically 75, 78, something like that, and he wanted to get back to that. And I was like, all right, well, why is that important to you? And after going through it a couple different times, he started off kind of like most people are. Well, I just want to be able to know that I can still do it, and it's going to take time and practice. And then you can see it kind of click in for him. He's like, well, also it's a great networking opportunity. And I was like, okay, well, tell me more. Like, how is that? How does you playing a little bit better golf? How does that create these networking opportunities? And he's like, well, if I'm going to get better, I got to spend a little bit more time there, practicing, getting to know people, playing with different people. He's like, and I can create networking opportunities out of it. So, all right, well, why is it important? And he was in insurance. And I was like, so why is that important to you, that you have these different kind of interactions and different connections and kind of have this different network? And he looked at it and he says, well, he's like, I just, the places that I play, typically the people that are out there playing when I am, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, he's like, they're typically a little bit more affluent. They've got a little bit more money. They know a little bit more about stuff. I can speak to them on that level. And thus, I can create those opportunities to start making more money. Okay, so why is that important that you start making more money? And he kind of goes down the path and figures out that ultimately his inspiration is his wife and he are in the process of kind of planning and starting their family. And that became his kind of light bulb moment of started out like he wanted to play golf better. But the reason why is he wants to provide for his wife and unborn kid at the time, um, just a better opportunity and a better life. And knowing that there's going to be additional expenses, being prepared for those, having that higher, more affluent kind of clientele base, typically does more business through networking than anything else, which can lead to more stuff down the road for him, which ultimately that's kind of what he's going to do. And so that's where I was saying, like, what starts off as your goal, as you start asking those why questions and really digging into the importance, why it's important to you, else it's important to, why it's important to them, what impact is it going to have on your life, not just the next 6 months. That's where you might end up with, okay, this is actually why this is important. Even though my goal is over here, this is why it's actually important that I'm doing this, and that's my why. Um, Another gentleman I was talking to, one of his things was, he's like, well, I want to be able to get back out and run a 10K again. And after talking to him, it's like, he used to do it, and he's like, he sees multiple benefits with getting back in shape and being able to run. And him and his wife, they're both going to get involved in it. But really, his kind of thing, and he kind of took it and ran with it. But when I told him, like, keep in mind, you got to do this for a lifetime. So when you get to the point you run that 10K, like, what's next? Like, what's beyond that, doing that 10K? And that's really the difference between, like, anything else that you've tried or done, resolutions, vision boards, bucket lists. People always say, well, just write it down and come up with this process and stuff like that. And what we're talking about is you need to get out of the short time and start thinking about your lifetime. Because we talked about the years of productivity, start having those now. Like, just back up the clock on yourself and say, no, it's like, I'm 36 years old and I'm already tired of, what I'm currently doing. And now is my time. And I know of an opportunity, and I know I can do this, and I know I can do that. And I'm going to go create it, because even when I'm 60, I've got business set up that has the cash flow that is just there every single month. The check shows up, because of the efforts that I made now. And that is my lifetime. And that is what I can count on down the road. And when you start thinking about that in a longer sense, then, 10 pounds doesn't matter. Fitting into a certain suit doesn't matter. Making 10% more this year in the long run doesn't matter. Going on one date with your significant other, well, it's important, but it's the repetitiveness of it, and it's consistency. And it's truly aimed at not like, you don't just want to throw something at it to cover it up. It's you really want to develop a better relationship, so that it's not just, well, I tried and we went to dinner and it's like, well, okay, but what did you talk about at dinner? Like, what did you learn about your partner? I mean, that should be a goal of every partnership out there. It's just every day learn something new, learn something different that you didn't know before about the other person. Um, you know, just be inquisitive and ask those questions of, wanting to know like them on a deeper level, or as they change and you change, those things change. And just being able to have that time to truly just both dive headfirst into life together, and really see how strong you can make that relationship. Um, and I'm sure as you guys, everyone out there, you've seen different programs and different, people like me sitting out here and talking about same similar type of stuff. Um, you know, make this year your best year ever. Well, it's the problem that I always have with those is like you basically can take the program from last year, which was make 2022 your best year ever, and just hit repeat, and now it's make 2023 your best year ever. And it's like it's the same message, and it's because it's just focused on that encapsulated 12-month period. um, and we need to get out of that sight of you got to wait for something, wait for a date, wait for someone, to happen. Who says that goals can't start on Thursday? Um, who says that goals you can't get going and really kind of start pushing forward on May 14th? Don't wait for a date or anything like that. The other thing that you'll find is a lot of these things, different programs and stuff like that, they have you focus on two main things. It's like what your goal is and what are the steps that you're going to take. And personally, I completely disagree with that. I think within your goals, what you really need to focus on and change your mind a little bit to is not what your goal is, but why. Focus on your inspiration. Like, why is this important to me? And have that be one of your focus. Now, obviously, you're going to know what the goal is. You're going to lay out your steps. And I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying that they shouldn't be your focus on a daily basis. It should be on your why, and then also on what success looks like. You want to. It's kind of those old exercises like, oh, they've done studies like with free throws or stuff like that where they took a bunch of people and they had, uh, you know 20 people, and 10 of them actually practiced free throws, and 10 of them didn't touch a basketball, and just they went through these visioning classes of just seeing themselves making every free throw time after time after time. And then they went out and they did like a real life test with these, and actually they found that the people that had that, they didn't touch a ball, they just had it in their mind, actually performed, either the same or better than people that were actually practicing it. So it's like having that in your head, like knowing what your success looks like and seeing yourself at that point where, you know what, I this is what I set out to do and I did it. And have your celebration, but you know that you've already started, or as soon as you have that success and that moment of I did this, the next day you're already on to your what's next. You're looking forward, not backward. You're looking at what you can accomplish, not necessarily what you have accomplished. Because all that work that you put in and did accomplish, you should be commended for it, absolutely. But it was now you've established your new normal, and this is now how you live, who you are, what your relationships are, the drive, the daily routines, the relationships, whatever ultimately it is. This is now you, and it's much higher than where you started. So don't, yes, you deserve congratulations, because depending on what that ultimately that goal was, it could have been a lot of effort, a long path, took time, took a lot of course corrections. Yeah, you need to congratulate yourself for taking that. But in the end, what it's done is it's created a new normal for yourself. It's created this, okay, that's who I was. This is actually now who I am. And I've got my success, but God, I'm so curious, like, what's over the next horizon? What can I do next? What is out there out in front of me that is still to be accomplished, or that's going to present itself as an opportunity? um, you'll find as the more and more success that you have with whatever ultimately your path is, whatever you're doing, the more success you have, the more opportunities. They don't necessarily start to present themselves to you, but you start to recognize them more. And it's only because your head's up and you're like, okay, you're not just stuck in the status quo of every day's the same and repeat, repeat, repeat. It's you got a new confidence, you've got a new mission, you've got new things that you're doing, you're feeling better, you're making progress, and you start to see more things, more opportunities out there than maybe than you saw before. And you're more willing now to look at those, to evaluate those, and to really be in a position to take advantage of them, because now they've presented themselves to you, and you're ready and you're in a great mode to ultimately take advantage of everything that you see that's out there. So, again, guys, if you want to get involved and on a lot deeper level, a more personal level, where you'll have assistance helping you with you know developing what your goal is, developing what your why is, coming up with kind of some plans for those potential roadblocks. um, I leave the what's next kind of to you guys, because you can say it's going to be this on day one. By the time you're kind of getting into that process, that what's next might be completely different. But you want some help in that, just go to project9life.com, and you'll get a little bit more info, and we'll be able to jump on a call and talk a little bit and see if we're the right fit for each other, which is the biggest, most important thing. Is um, I'm not going to say that I can help everybody. And if your goal or what you're looking at is just outside of the program or my area and of expertise, I'll tell you. And I've got a lot of resources, and I can certainly point you in the right direction. So, um, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. You guys just don't, don't be held to a date or an event or, where your pain ultimately breaks you. Make a decision. As soon as you start to feel uncomfortable with the path that you're currently going on, that's the time to make a decision. And that's the time to start putting a plan in place for, I don't like this, I'm going to go do this. Too often people wait too long and the pain has grown to a level to where like it physically hurts. Like, they just, they throw their hands up, they give up, they think there's no way out. So don't let yourself get to that stance. But all right, guys. So that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back on next Tuesday at 7 Mountain Time. Look forward to seeing you guys there, and certainly let us know what help we can provide, or certainly if you got subjects you want to hear covered. So.